Imagine a world where talent knows no boundaries, where a single voice can bridge the gap between anonymity and stardom. In a bustling subway station, a young black girl's melody pierces through the noise, catching the ear of someone unexpected. As her voice soars, tears form in the eyes of a hooded figure, none other than Adele herself. What unfolds next is a story that will challenge your perceptions and warm your heart. How does this chance encounter transform both their lives? And what powerful message does their journey send to a world often divided by prejudice? The screech of metal on metal pierced the air as a train rumbled into the station, momentarily drowning out a haunting melody that had been floating through the underground corridors. As the doors slid open and commuters poured onto the platform, a young black girl stood quietly against a graffiti-covered wall, her eyes closed as she poured her heart into her song. This was Jasmine, a 17-year-old with dreams as vast as the city above. Every day after school, she made her way to this very spot, transforming the grimy subway station into her own personal stage. Her voice, rich and soulful beyond her years, carried notes of pain and hope in equal measure. Yet as Jasmine sang, the rush hour crowd surged past her, a river of indifference. Businessmen with briefcases, students with backpacks, tourists with maps. They all hurried by, barely sparing a glance for the young talent in their midst. Some days a few coins would clatter into the old guitar case at her feet. Most days there was nothing but the echo of her own voice bouncing off the tiled walls. This daily ritual of singing to an unresponsive audience had become both Jasmine's greatest joy and her deepest source of doubt. Each ignored performance chipped away at her confidence, a constant reminder of the uphill battle she faced. Psychologists might point to the crushing weight of repeated rejection, the slow erosion of self-esteem that comes from feeling invisible day after day. But something kept Jasmine coming back. Perhaps it was the rare moments when a harried commuter would pause, their features softening as they listened for a few precious seconds before the flow of the crowd pulled them away. Or maybe it was the elderly woman who sometimes sat on a nearby bench, closing her eyes and swaying gently to the music. More than anything, though, it was the fire that burned within Jasmine herself. She knew, with a certainty that defied logic, that her voice was meant for more than just these underground tunnels. Every time she opened her mouth to sing, she felt connected to something greater than herself, something that transcended the dirty floors and flickering fluorescent lights of the subway. Jasmine's unwavering belief in her talent and purpose was a quiet rebellion against a world that often seemed determined to ignore her. Each song was an act of faith, a declaration that her voice mattered, even when no one appeared to be listening. She sang for herself, for her family struggling to make ends meet, for every person who had ever been told their dreams were too big. As another train roared into the station, Jasmine took a deep breath, ready to start her next song. But today, something felt different in the air. The usual cacophony of the subway seemed muted, as if the very atmosphere was holding its breath in anticipation. Jasmine's fingers hovered over her guitar strings, her heart beating a little faster than usual. Little did she know that this ordinary Tuesday afternoon was about to become anything but ordinary, as fate prepared to play its hand in the most unexpected of ways. Have you ever witnessed a moment when time itself seemed to pause? In the depths of a grimy subway station, a young girl's song was about to create just such an impossible instant. But who among the rushing commuters would stop to listen? As Jasmine's fingers struck the first chord, a hush fell over the platform. Her voice, rich with emotion, rose above the din of the subway. The melody carried notes of pain and hope, weaving a tapestry of sound that seemed to hang in the air. Commuters who moments ago had been rushing past now slowed their steps, heads turning almost involuntarily toward the source of the music. At first, the change was subtle. A businessman loosened his grip on his briefcase, his hurried stride faltering. A group of teenagers lowered their voices, their animated chatter fading into silence. An elderly woman leaned forward on her cane, straining to hear better. The usual indifference of the subway crowd began to crack, giving way to curiosity. As Jasmine's song built to its crescendo, the atmosphere in the station shifted palpably. The air seemed to thicken with emotion, carrying the weight of her lyrics to every corner of the platform. a child tugged on her mother's sleeve, pointing towards Jasmine with wide-eyed wonder. A construction worker removed his hard hat, holding it reverently against his chest as if he were in church. In that moment, the invisible barriers that usually divided the diverse crowd began to dissolve. The power of music transcended age, race, and social status. A stockbroker in an expensive suit found himself nodding in rhythm next to a delivery driver in a worn uniform. A group of students from different schools, who might never have interacted otherwise, exchanged glances of shared appreciation. The crowd around Jasmine grew, forming a loose semicircle. Those at the edges stood on tiptoes, craning their necks to catch a glimpse of the young singer. The usual rush of the subway seemed to slow, as if the very fabric of time had been altered by the sound of her voice. As the final notes of her song faded, a palpable tension filled the air. Who among this impromptu audience had been most deeply moved by Jasmine's performance? Would someone step forward, recognizing the extraordinary talent before them? It was then that a figure at the back of the crowd caught Jasmine's eye. Unlike the others, who were now beginning to stir and murmur amongst themselves, this person remained utterly still. Shrouded in a dark hoodie, their face hidden from view, they stood as if rooted to the spot. There was something about the figure's posture, a certain tension in their shoulders, that suggested this was no ordinary listener. As Jasmine watched, the hooded figure took a single step forward, then hesitated. The crowd, sensing something significant was about to happen, parted slightly. In that moment, as the hooded figure and Jasmine locked eyes across the platform, the air crackled with possibility. Something extraordinary was unfolding in this most ordinary of places, a connection forming that would change both their lives forever. And as the next train rumbled into the station, drowning out the lingering echoes of Jasmine's song, the stage was set for a revelation that would shake the foundations of the music world. In the fluorescent glare of the subway, a single tear glistened beneath the hood of the mysterious figure. The droplet caught the light, a tiny prism reflecting the raw emotion of Jasmine's song. The hooded listener stood motionless, transfixed by the young girl's voice that seemed to reach into the depths of their soul. As Jasmine's melody soared, the figure's shoulders began to tremble slightly. Their gloved hands clenched and unclenched at their sides, betraying an inner struggle to maintain composure in the face of such unexpected beauty. What was it about this impromptu performance that had affected them so deeply? What memories or long-buried feelings had Jasmine's voice awakened? The universal language of music has a unique power to bridge gaps and touch hearts across all boundaries. In this grimy subway station, Jasmine's song had created a moment of shared humanity. The hooded figure's reaction spoke to the way music can bypass our defenses, tapping into experiences and emotions we all share: love, loss, hope, and the yearning for connection. As the final notes of Jasmine's song faded, the figure took a tentative step forward. The crowd, sensing something significant was about to unfold, parted slightly. Jasmine's eyes widened as she watched the hooded listener approach, her guitar held loosely in suddenly trembling fingers. Time seemed to slow as the figure raised their hands to the edge of the hood. Would they reveal themselves? What face would emerge from beneath the shadows? The tension in the air was palpable, a collective breath held by everyone on the platform. With a fluid motion, the hood fell back. A cascade of blonde hair tumbled free, framing a face known to millions around the world. Gasps rippled through the crowd as recognition dawned. Standing before Jasmine, her eyes shining with unshed tears, was none other than Adele. The shock on Jasmine's face mirrored that of the onlookers. Here was one of the most celebrated voices of a generation, moved to tears by a young girl singing in a subway. The distance between superstardom and anonymity had vanished in the span of a song. For a moment, neither spoke. They simply regarded each other, two artists connected by the pure emotion of music. Adele's presence on this ordinary subway platform felt surreal, yet somehow perfectly right. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring these two voices together at precisely this moment. As their eyes met, a spark of understanding passed between them. In Jasmine's raw talent, Adele saw echoes of her own journey. In Adele's emotional response, Jasmine found validation of her deepest hopes and dreams. Two worlds had collided, and in the aftermath, something new and extraordinary was about to be born. The subway platform, usually a place of transient encounters and missed connections, had become the stage for a moment that would change both their lives forever. As Adele took another step toward Jasmine, the air hummed with possibility. The next chapter of their story was about to unfold, and its melody would resonate far beyond the tunnels of this underground world. Jasmine's fingers froze on her guitar strings, her eyes widening in disbelief as she recognized the woman standing before her. Adele, the voice of a generation, was here in this grimy subway station, her eyes glistening with emotion. The bustling platform seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them in a bubble of suspended time. A whirlwind of emotions swept through Jasmine. Excitement warred with anxiety, her lifelong admiration for Adele clashing with the sudden, overwhelming pressure of the moment. Her throat tightened, and she wondered if she'd be able to produce a single note, let alone carry on a conversation with her idol. Jasmine's mind raced. What if she said something foolish? What if her voice cracked? The weight of this unexpected encounter threatened to crush her newfound confidence. She had dreamed of a moment like this, but now that it was here, she felt woefully unprepared. Yet as Adele took another step closer, something in her expression gave Jasmine pause. There was a softness in her eyes, a look of genuine admiration that cut through Jasmine's rising panic. This wasn't just a celebrity sighting. This was a connection between two artists. The impact of validation from such a respected figure in the music industry cannot be overstated. For aspiring artists like Jasmine, a word of encouragement from someone who has already achieved success can be transformative. It can silence the doubts that plague sleepless nights and fuel the determination to push through countless rejections. As Adele opened her mouth to speak, the air around them seemed to crackle with possibility. What words would she choose? Would she offer criticism, praise, or something in between? The next few seconds held the power to elevate Jasmine's dreams or dash them against the cold tiles of the subway floor. Your voice, Adele began, her own words thick with emotion. It's extraordinary. You have a gift, love, a real, raw talent that can't be taught. She paused, seeming to gather herself. What's your name? Jasmine, came the reply, barely above a whisper. Adele smiled warmly. Jasmine, I want you to know something. I've heard countless singers in my career, but few have moved me the way you just did. There's a depth to your voice, a story in every note. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you don't belong on the biggest stages in the world. Jasmine's eyes welled with tears, her guitar forgotten as she absorbed Adele's words. The praise washed over her, soothing years of doubt and rejection. In that moment, her dreams didn't seem so far-fetched anymore. As the initial shock began to wear off, curiosity sparked in Jasmine's eyes. She found her voice again, stronger this time. Why are you here? In the subway, I mean. Adele's laugh rang out, dispelling the last of the tension. Sometimes inspiration strikes in the most unexpected places. I was looking for a bit of everyday magic, and I think I found it. With those words, a conversation began that would alter the course of both their lives. As commuters streamed around them, oblivious to the extraordinary exchange taking place, Jasmine and Adele began to share their stories, their struggles, and their hopes for the future of music. As their conversation deepened, Adele's eyes took on a distant look, as if peering into the past. She leaned against the graffitied wall, her posture relaxing as she began to share her own journey with Jasmine. The bustling subway faded into the background, creating an intimate bubble around the two. Artists. You know, love, seeing you here today, it's like looking in a mirror from years ago, Adele began, her voice soft but filled with emotion. She recounted her early days in London, singing at small clubs and open mic nights, facing rejection after rejection. The pain of those memories was evident in the slight tremor of her voice. Jasmine listened intently, her eyes wide with surprise. She had always imagined Adele's rise to fame as a smooth, inevitable ascent. But as Adele spoke of sleepless nights filled with doubt, of critics who said her look wasn't right for the industry, of doors slammed in her face, Jasmine felt a deep connection forming between them. There was this one night, Adele continued, when I was ready to give it all up. I'd been turned away from 3 auditions in a row, and I was broke, tired, and heartbroken. She paused, meeting Jasmine's gaze. But then I remembered why I started singing in the first place. It wasn't about fame or money. It was about connecting with people, about sharing something real. Jasmine nodded, her own experiences echoing Adele's words. She thought of the countless times she'd sung to an indifferent subway crowd, holding on to that same belief in the power of her music. As Adele continued her story, detailing the small breaks and relentless work that eventually led to her breakthrough, Jasmine felt a surge of hope. Despite their different backgrounds, Adele from working-class London, Jasmine from the streets of New York, their struggles and aspirations were remarkably similar. The emotional exchange between them grew more intense as Adele opened up about the pressures of sudden fame, the challenges of maintaining authenticity in a commercial industry, and the personal toll of putting one's heart into every performance. Jasmine found herself sharing her own fears and dreams, her words tumbling out with a honesty that surprised her. As they talked, a question began to form in Jasmine's mind. How would this unexpected connection shape their futures? Would this be just a fleeting moment of inspiration, or could it lead to something more? Adele seemed to sense Jasmine's unspoken thoughts. She straightened up, her expression shifting from nostalgic to determined. Jasmine, I see so much potential in you. Your voice, your passion. It reminds me of myself at your age, and I'd like to help you if you'll let me. Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. Was Adele really offering what she thought she was? I'd like to mentor you, Adele said, her voice firm and warm. Help you navigate this industry, develop your talent. It won't be easy, mind you. There's a lot of hard work ahead, but I believe in you, and I think together we could create something truly special. Tears welled up in Jasmine's eyes as the full impact of Adele's words hit her. This was more than she had ever dared to dream. With a mixture of gratitude and determination, she nodded, unable to speak. As they exchanged contact information, both women felt the weight of the moment. A new chapter was beginning, one filled with immense potential, but also fraught with challenges. The music industry was notoriously difficult to navigate, and their unconventional partnership would undoubtedly raise eyebrows. Yet as they parted ways, Adele with a warm hug and Jasmine with a heartfelt thank you, there was a sense of excitement in the air. Something extraordinary had been set in motion in this ordinary subway station, and its echoes would soon be heard far beyond these underground tunnels. The first notes of their collaboration rang out in a small, dimly lit studio, a blend of Adele's soulful power and Jasmine's raw, untamed talent. The melody was beautiful, yet challenging, revealing the vast distance between their musical worlds. Adele, with years of professional training and industry experience, found herself both impressed and slightly overwhelmed by Jasmine's natural, unpolished style. As they worked together, unexpected obstacles emerged. Jasmine's instinct was to improvise, letting her emotions guide her voice wherever it wanted to go. Adele, accustomed to the structured approach of commercial music production, gently tried to steer Jasmine towards more consistent vocal techniques. The tension was palpable as Jasmine struggled to adapt without losing the essence of her unique sound. Their different backgrounds created a complex dynamic. Adele, raised in working-class London, had navigated the predominantly white British music scene. Jasmine, a young black girl from New York's tougher neighborhoods, brought a completely different set of life experiences to her music. These cultural differences manifested in their approaches to lyrics, melody, and even their interpretation of what made a song good. One particular session highlighted the challenges they faced. Adele suggested a song that spoke of heartbreak and resilience, themes she knew resonated universally. But as Jasmine began to sing, her interpretation took the lyrics to places Adele hadn't anticipated. Jasmine's voice carried the weight of systemic struggles and community resilience, adding layers of meaning Adele hadn't considered. The complexities of cross-cultural collaboration in music became increasingly apparent. It wasn't just about merging two voices, it was about bridging two worlds, two perspectives on art and life. There were moments when both women wondered if their differences might prove too great to overcome. During a particularly frustrating afternoon, Jasmine's voice cracked with emotion. "I don't know if I can do this," she admitted, her eyes downcast. "Maybe I'm not cut out for the proper music world." Adele paused, recognizing the critical juncture they had reached. She took a deep breath and spoke from her heart. "Jasmine, love, there's no such thing as proper music. What you bring to this studio is just as valid, just as important as anything I've ever done. We're not trying to change you, we're trying to amplify your voice." This moment of honest communication marked a turning point. They began to approach their collaboration differently, focusing on finding a unique harmony that respected both their styles. Adele learned to loosen her grip on traditional structures, while Jasmine embraced techniques that could make her raw talent even more powerful. As they found their rhythm, their partnership began to produce something truly special. The music they created was a fusion of styles, blending Adele's polished pop sensibilities with Jasmine's gritty, soulful edge. It was unlike anything either of them had done before, and it was captivating. Word of their unconventional collaboration began to spread through the industry grapevine. A&R executives whispered in corners, critics speculated in online forums, and fans of both artists buzzed with excitement. Their partnership was attracting attention, both positive and negative, setting the stage for challenges that would test the strength of their newfound musical bond. Just as their collaboration was beginning to soar, a discordant note struck. Adele's phone buzzed with an incoming call, the screen displaying her manager's name. She excused herself, leaving Jasmine to tinker with a melody they'd been refining. The conversation was brief, but when Adele returned, her face was etched with concern. "We've hit a snag," she said, her voice tight. "The label executives, they're not thrilled about our partnership." Jasmine's fingers stilled on the piano keys. "What do you mean?" Adele sighed, running a hand through her hair. "They're worried about brand consistency. They think our styles are too different, that it might confuse the audience." She paused, her gaze meeting Jasmine's. "But I think there's more to it than that." As they delved deeper into the executives' objections, a disturbing pattern emerged. Concerns about market appeal and target demographics thinly veiled a reluctance to fully support a young Black artist. The reality of systemic racism in the music industry, often hidden behind polite corporate speak, was rearing its ugly head. The news hit Jasmine like a physical blow. She'd known the road would be tough, but this felt like a betrayal. "So what? I'm good enough to sing in the subway, but not on a real stage?" Her voice cracked with emotion. Adele reached out, clasping Jasmine's hand. "No, love, you're more than good enough. This isn't about talent, it's about an industry that's afraid of change." The emotional toll was evident on both women. Jasmine's shoulders slumped, the weight of yet another obstacle threatening to crush her dreams. Adele's jaw was set, a mix of anger and determination flashing in her eyes. As they grappled with the implications, the conversation turned to the broader issues at play. This wasn't just about their collaboration. It was a reflection of the struggles faced by countless artists of color in an industry still grappling with its own biases. How many other voices have been silenced? Jasmine wondered aloud. How many dreams crushed before they even had a chance? Adele nodded, her expression grim. Too many, but that's why we can't back down. This is bigger than us now. The question hung in the air. How would they respond to this challenge? The easy path would be to bow to the pressure, to go their separate ways and maintain the status quo. But as they looked at each other, a silent understanding passed between them. "We're not letting them dictate our story," Adele said firmly. "If they won't give us a platform, we'll build our own." Jasmine straightened, a spark of defiance igniting in her eyes. "You're right. We've got something special here. They can't take that away from us." Together, they began to formulate a plan. They would take control of their narrative, using social media and independent platforms to share their music directly with the world. No filters, no corporate meddling, just pure artistic expression. As they worked late into the night, a sense of excitement began to build. They were preparing to make a bold statement, one that would shake the foundations of the industry. Their music would be more than just a collaboration. It would be a rallying cry for change, a challenge to the gatekeepers who thought they could silence diverse voices. The road ahead would be difficult, fraught with challenges and pushback. But as Adele and Jasmine put the finishing touches on their first truly joint composition, they knew they were on the verge of something revolutionary. The industry might not be ready for them, but the world was waiting. The lights dimmed in the packed auditorium, plunging the space into a moment of hushed anticipation. Two silhouettes emerged on the stage, their outlines stark against the soft glow of the backdrop. As eyes adjusted to the darkness, the audience recognized the unmistakable figure of Adele standing beside a younger, less familiar form. Jasmine's hands trembled slightly as she gripped her microphone, the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Some expressed excitement at the prospect of hearing Adele perform live, while others murmured skeptically about the wisdom of pairing a global superstar with an unknown subway singer. The air crackled with a mixture of curiosity and doubt. As the first notes of their duet filled the air, a collective intake of breath swept through the auditorium. Adele's rich, powerful voice blended seamlessly with Jasmine's raw, emotive tones. The song, a fusion of pop and soul, spoke of resilience in the face of adversity and the strength found in unlikely friendships. Each verse wove their distinct styles together, creating a tapestry of sound that defied easy categorization. The audience sat transfixed as the performance unfolded. Those who had come expecting a typical Adele ballad found themselves swept up in something entirely new. Jasmine's voice, honed on subway platforms and infused with the spirit of New York streets, added an edge of authenticity that cut through the polished veneer of the venue. As the song built towards its climax, the energy in the room shifted palpably. Skepticism gave way to awe as the true power of their collaboration became evident. Adele's seasoned professionalism complemented Jasmine's raw talent, each elevating the other to new heights. The lyrics, touching on themes of social justice and personal growth, resonated deeply with the diverse crowd. In the final chorus, their voices united in a powerful crescendo that seemed to shake the very foundations of the auditorium. Adele's eyes shone with pride as she glanced at her young protege, while Jasmine stood tall, her initial nervousness replaced by the confidence of an artist coming into her own. As the last note faded, a moment of stunned silence hung in the air. Then, like a dam breaking, the audience erupted into thunderous applause. Tears glistened on cheeks throughout the crowd, moved by the unexpected beauty and emotion of the performance. Standing ovations rippled through the rows, a sea of hands raised in appreciation. Adele and Jasmine stood center stage, hands clasped and raised in triumph. Their faces glowed with the exhilaration of shared accomplishment, knowing they had just shattered expectations and preconceptions alike. As they took their bows and exited the stage, the buzz in the auditorium grew. Critics in the audience were already tapping furiously on their phones, eager to be the first to report on this groundbreaking collaboration. Fans turned to each other, excitedly discussing what they had just witnessed and speculating about what it might mean for the future of music. The performance had ended, but its impact was just beginning to ripple outward. In challenging the status quo and showcasing the power of diverse voices coming together, Adele and Jasmine had lit a spark that promised to ignite conversations far beyond the walls of the auditorium. As the final echoes of applause faded, a new sound began to build, the digital roar of a world reacting. What happens when a single performance becomes a cultural touchstone overnight? The aftermath of Adele and Jasmine's duet was about to reshape the landscape of popular music in ways no one could have predicted. Within minutes of the performance, social media platforms erupted. Hashtags like #HasherAdeleMeets. Jasmine and Subway to Stardom trended worldwide. Video clips of their duet, captured on countless smartphones, spread like wildfire. The comments sections became battlegrounds of opinion, reflecting the complex emotions their collaboration had stirred. Supporters hailed the performance as a watershed moment for diversity in music. "This is what representation looks like," wrote one viral tweet. "Adele using her platform to elevate new voices is exactly what the industry needs." Fan accounts dedicated to Jasmine sprang up overnight, her follower count skyrocketing as people clamored to learn more about the Subway singer who had held her own alongside a global superstar. Yet, as with any groundbreaking moment, backlash was swift and harsh. Industry traditionalists questioned the wisdom of pairing an established artist with an unknown quantity. Is this a publicity stunt or a genuine artistic collaboration? One music critic pondered in a widely shared article. More insidious comments lurked in the darker corners of the internet, their thinly veiled racism a stark reminder of the barriers still facing artists of color. Adele and Jasmine found themselves at the center of a cultural maelstrom. Their phones buzzed incessantly with notifications, interview requests, and messages of both support and criticism. The pressure was immense, but so was the opportunity to drive real change. As the days passed, the conversation expanded beyond just music. Sociologists and cultural commentators weighed in, exploring how this unlikely duo had sparked discussions about race, class, and opportunity in the arts. Their collaboration became a case study in the power of art to challenge societal norms and bridge divides. The music industry, initially caught off guard, scrambled to respond. Some labels quickly announced initiatives to discover and promote diverse talent, while others doubled down on traditional formulas. The uncertainty was palpable. Would this be a fleeting moment or the start of a true paradigm shift? Amid the chaos, other artists began to speak out. A Grammy-winning rapper praised Adele's willingness to share the spotlight. An up-and-coming indie band credited Jasmine's journey for inspiring them to persist in the face of rejection. Even some industry veterans, long silent on issues of diversity, found their voices. As the week drew to a close, it became clear that Adele and Jasmine's performance had ignited more than just a viral moment. A movement was taking shape, centered on the idea that music could be a powerful force for unity and change. Collaborations across genres and generations were announced. Benefit concerts featuring diverse lineups were hastily organized. The future of the industry remained uncertain, but one thing was clear. The ripples from that single performance would continue to spread, challenging long-held assumptions and opening doors that had long been closed. As Adele and Jasmine prepared for their next move, the world watched and waited, wondering what new harmonies might emerge from this unexpected duet. From subway platforms to stadium stages, Jasmine's journey had been nothing short of extraordinary. As she stood center stage in a sold-out arena, her voice soaring above the crowd, it was hard to believe that just months ago she had been singing for spare change in the underground tunnels of New York City. The impact of her collaboration with Adele had reverberated through the music industry like a shockwave. Record labels, once hesitant to take risks on unconventional artists, were now actively seeking out diverse voices. Jasmine's raw talent, coupled with Adele's mentorship, had opened doors that had long been closed to marginalized communities. But the changes weren't limited to the industry alone. Jasmine's life had transformed in ways she could never have imagined. Gone were the days of struggling to make ends meet. Now she had a team of professionals guiding her career, a chart-topping album, and a growing fan base that stretched across continents. Yet despite her newfound success, Jasmine remained grounded, never forgetting the subway platforms where her journey began. The music world, too, had undergone a seismic shift. Collaborations across genres and generations had become the norm rather than the exception. Artists were using their platforms to amplify important social issues, and audiences were responding with enthusiasm. The lines between mainstream and underground were blurring, creating a rich tapestry of sound that reflected the diversity of human experience. However, not all was smooth sailing. The industry still grappled with deeply ingrained biases and outdated practices. For every step forward, there seemed to be forces pulling in the opposite direction. Jasmine and Adele found themselves at the forefront of these ongoing battles, using their voices both on and off the stage to push for lasting change. As Jasmine's set drew to a close, anticipation built in the arena. What would come next for this dynamic duo? Rumors had been swirling about a new project, something bigger than just music. The audience held their breath, sensing they were about to witness another groundbreaking moment. Adele joined Jasmine on stage, their presence together still eliciting gasps of excitement from the crowd. With a shared look of determination, they stepped up to the microphone. "We've been on an incredible journey," Adele began, her voice carrying across the hushed arena. "But we're not done yet," Jasmine continued, her confidence evident in every word. "Today, we're thrilled to announce the launch of Harmony for All, a new initiative dedicated to supporting young artists from marginalized communities." The crowd erupted in cheers as the two women outlined their vision, a comprehensive program offering mentorship, resources, and platforms to voices that had long been overlooked by the mainstream industry. As the announcement concluded and the final notes of their duet faded away, it was clear that this was more than just a feel-good moment. The story that had begun with two voices in a subway station had grown into a powerful chorus for change, challenging the status quo and reimagining what the future of music could be. In the quiet aftermath of their groundbreaking performance, Jasmine and Adele's story resonated far beyond the music industry. Their unlikely partnership had become a testament to the transformative power of a single voice, nurtured by understanding and opportunity. As their initiative, Harmony for All, took root, it served as a reminder that talent flourishes in the most unexpected places. The subway, once a symbol of Jasmine's struggles, now represented possibility. Commuters paused more often, listening for echoes of undiscovered brilliance in the stations and tunnels. The world seemed to lean in, attuned to the melodies that had always been there, waiting to be heard. As their movement grew, it challenged us all to reconsider our assumptions about art, success, and human potential. The next world-changing voice, after all, might be singing just around the corner, waiting for someone to stop and listen.